Good evening. Welcome to the Diablo 3 podcast. We are online at diablo8gamers.com. I am your host, Flux, and I'm joined on this seasons show by Wolfpaq.
Yo.
And by Nerdwords.
Hello.
And by Jay Wilson. Okay, not really. We were just discussing our imminent host, our imminent game developer in the pregame show getting warmed up, and nothing but good things to say about him, right?
Not at all.
Exactly.
Precisely.
Wilson! Okay, so we are recording this a day and a half before Season 2 begins, and we're going to talk about how Season 1 went, and preview some of the stuff coming up for Season 2, and the new legendary items and the legendary gems that nobody likes or wants or cares about, and the maybe some about the tavern talk yesterday the developers engaged in, and hopefully you can listen to this on Friday morning and get all ready for your seasons that evening. So I guess we'll just jump right to that. First off, guys, are you guys both planning on starting off in seasons, and do you have rushing plans, and what is your Friday evening going to be? Wolfpaq.
Yeah, I'm going to be online and hopefully playing some multiplayer Diablo, trying to hit level 70 before midnight in hardcore. And
well, do you know your class? Do you have a party that you're going to play with? Are you all planned out? Do you have Dr. Pepper by the IV bag or what?
No, I don't. I'm going to play a barbarian because the two classes I played in Season 1 were Wizard and Crusader, and both of them have exceptionally good, like, come back from the dead talents and or abilities, like built into their set or skills or whatever. Like, I had two fail-safes, basically, and I didn't feel I was getting the full hardcore experience.
The Barb has none.
Barb has none, exactly. So, and it's also the class I played the least. Like, I was inspecting my profile the other day, and I haven't played much Barb. So, Barbarian it is.
So you want a challenge in a class you haven't played much, and you're going to go do that in hardcore, just like you, huh, Nerdwords?
No, never. You know this. Yeah, no.
And you're playing your one class ever, and you're playing softcore.
Yes, of course. I'm playing Wizard, and I will be playing softcore. And I do have a planned party of people, though not as like dialed as it was last time because I'm expecting more cheese. But I guess we'll get there. I've got people coming where we're gonna meet up an hour before and eat and stuff, and then we're going to play. So hopefully all weekend. Hopefully.
What do you think of the time of it starting off, since you're not on the West Coast?
If I can be blunt, I'm really fucking mad at Blizzard about this. So
you don't like the fact that the season starts at immediately when they get off work at California time, everyone else can just go to hell?
I mean, no, I don't care. I care less about the time. It's like we have 5 months of Season 1. I'm sorry, I'm going to soapbox for a second. We had 5 months of Season 1. We're all like wanting this patch as soon as possible, like wanting to get the new season in and everything, and they dropped the patch early, which really screws up the end of the season leaderboards and everything, and then but it's all good, everything's good, the game's good, and then they announce the time and they give us somewhat of a notice, but some of us have like jobs and life, and the Friday before Valentine's Day, really, like, of all the days, the 13th of February was the day that you chose to start Season 2. It's just really unfortunate timing, but luckily I have a very forgiving girlfriend who will not murder me. So
yeah, we've been joking about that. Was that a requiem on the fact that nobody at Blizzard has a date?
Yeah, I don't know.
The fact that they don't think any of the fans do either.
Like, when they announced that they were going to do the tavern talk thing, I was like, okay, so they're going to do it on the 10th. So I'm going to say not this week, but the week after, because there's no way they'd release it the day before Valentine's Day. And then sure enough, like,
oh, come on, you guys are too cynical. It's Friday the 13th.
I mean, that's cool, but like, realistically speaking, for those of us that really like to jump in and play like a whole weekend, especially at the start of a season, man, it's a bummer. But like I said, I managed it. I'm good. I'm not crying about it anymore. But I mean, come on, like, they could have done it like literally the next weekend or the weekend before, and it would have been, but all that time, 5-month-long season, and that's the day that they settled on. It just really...
Or they could have done it 3 weeks ago when the damn patch came out.
Right,
like
yeah, I mean, either way, like, there's just so many other options they had for that day, and they chose that day, and I was appalled by it, but I managed to work it out, so I guess I'll live, but,
So how does the timing work for you, Wolfpaq? And you have a lovely wife. Is she understanding?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be with her on Saturday, but Friday night I'll be playing Diablo.
I guess mine just spills over to Sunday. Like I'll literally, my goal is to stay up from Friday night through till Sunday.
Oh, I
You gonna hit 70 in that time? Do you think? If you can, maybe you can find a good bounty
My
and find a way to exploit a little
I
experience
would
there
like
somewhere.
to be at Paragon 200 by that point. That way I can really start greater rifting, but we'll see.
I don't plan
Okay,
to sleep until I'm 70 on Friday.
Right. I'm at least
So
going that far.
You can sleep when you're dead.
yeah, exactly.
So I have a part-time job where I pour wine in a winery in the area here, and I'm kind of a wine expert in real life, if you can believe it. Probably not. You can't believe it, no,
Don't
but
believe
I
it.
actually am. And of course, like the busiest weekend of the month is the whole Valentine's
Yep.
thing. We have all kinds of promotions and shit.
Oh yeah.
So I have to work all day Saturday and Sunday, early in the morning, getting down there, and I have a date Friday night. So I'm getting nothing done in seasons. However, I also head up our clan on the European server, our hardcore clan, and of course the European one starts at, I believe it's 9 a.m. Pacific time,
Well, there you go.
which is 6 p.m. CET, Central European time. So in theory, I'm actually going to play it Friday morning and probably be streaming it on the website. So maybe while people are listening to this, they could actually be watching me rushing a new demon hunter and probably dying in horrible fashion. But with any luck, I can do that I can get in 4 or 5 hours in the day and maybe get to 70 with other guys in the clan, and then God knows when I'll get to play US, like Monday or something probably. But that's my lucky plan, since I'm also on our European server, and maybe I can get a head start on that guy. And you can tell you guys what level 70 was like before you even know it existed.
Do you have a planned group, or are you just going kind of?
Nope.
Oh, just rolling with it.
Pug, more pugs than an ugly short dog.
There you go.
So I don't know. I was on there this evening. Well, this afternoon for me, but evening time in Europe, and there were like 5 people on. So there haven't been that many people on lately, but everyone keeps saying they're coming back for season 2. So
Yeah.
I changed the news, the news thing, and said, season starts this point, get in here and look for groups, and we're going to play. And I was really wanting to do a different class, to be brave like Wolfpaq. I kind of want to do the barbarian just because I've always really liked frenzy, even though it's totally non-viable for endgame. And the one new legendary item for barbarians is a belt that gives you every effect of frenzy at once. I'm like, I don't think I want to do a whole new class on the rush thing with my limited playtime just to maybe get some belt that'll probably take me 5,000 blood charge to get anyway. Maybe that's not the best plan, but that's a long-term thing. So I'm probably just another demon hunter because that's really all I know, and it's the only class that matters.
See, I think this will be the first time I roll another class. I may actually, I really want to try out the Demon Hunter with the Marauder 6-piece changes, but I haven't like tried it yet because I wanted to do it in season if I was going to do it. So I'm just waiting for the reset. But I'm definitely going to roll Wizard first and hit Paragon 200 before I touch anything else.
So before we get into more Season 2 stuff, how was Season 1 for you guys? Obviously, it went 5.5 months, and Nerdwords just subtly expressed his opinion that it might have been a little bit too long. And you had said you haven't played much lately, Wolfpaq. Was that because seasons went too long and you got sick of waiting, or what?
Yeah, I got my wizard super geared, and then I got my crusader reasonably geared, and I was like, all right, I've had a good run. And this is exactly how I played Diablo 2 as well. I would play it for several months and then just stop. And so I was like, I'll take a break. There were other games to play, and so I didn't feel compelled to play because I had gotten to the point where it felt a little bit too repetitive. And I've taken a long break, and there's a class I haven't really experienced much, in a new season with new items, so I'm pumped to go at it again. But yeah.
What was your Paragon level in Season 1?
I hit 400, like 410, something like that.
That's not bad. That's above noob status.
I think so, yeah.
That's higher Paragon than every single Blizzard employee put together reached, I think. No, that's not true. We know some of them are very hardcore. For sure, John Yang was Paragon 784 or something.
Wow.
I don't know. He plays a lot, but that's people always joke. Don't they ever play their own game? Will they play in normal? Okay, maybe they are. That was in Diablo 3 vanilla, actually, when the entire beta test was up to level 13, and luckily all the rest of the game was perfectly balanced, so there was no problems beyond that.
Yeah, it's totally good.
So anyway, Season 1. So what was your nerd words? You obviously you were big rush at the start, but you played Wizard and you played not Wizard and you played Wizard.
Yeah, I just played a lot of Wizard. I actually didn't even roll a second character. I was gonna roll a second Wizard at one point, and then I just didn't. I just played a lot of Wizard, a lot of Greater Rifts, and a lot of pushing times and stuff. I originally finished 77th on the leaderboards for Solo Wizard, but I was a lot higher before the patch changed. I was in the top, I want to say 50, because I think I hit 46 was the highest I ever got. But But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I loved it. And I was like, I would go like a day or two without playing. That I'd play on the weekends and stuff. I wasn't. Once it got into the season, it slowed down a little bit for me. But it was also retail season, so it was very busy real life. But now it's slowing down and the season 2 starting, so I'm super excited to get in and play like a whole bunch all weekend.
And plus, this week they deleted a bunch of accounts for people who were botting. So now
Right.
you're actually number 17 on Wizards.
No, actually, I moved up one.
Jumped up 414 spots.
I moved up one space. I was 77, and I moved up one to 76. So I actually just checked it before we started doing this.
Well, so what is that, like Greater Rift 45 or something? What is your...
I finished, I think, 40... It was either 44 or 45. I think I finished 44. I never finished 45. I was close. Like, literally within tens of seconds. But I had to work the last day, and I had saved up a bunch of keys. The problem that I had is that I did too many, like... I would just spend time leveling keys and not use them. And, like, I have over 20, like... 42 plus keys just sitting in my stash that rolled over from the season because I didn't get time to finish them. So this time I'm going to start just leveling one key or 2 or 3 up and doing those first. That's definitely a lesson I learned.
What how high could you get on waves?
Waves usually about 35 or 36.
So you had to do a lot. You had to do work to get to 42. Then.
Yes, oh my God.
I mean, Demon Hunter can fall out of bed and get a 40. You know.
Yeah, I would have like a lot of 34 to 37 keys, and then I would just do I would do like 5 level 34 keys and level those all the way up until I hit like 42 or 43, and then I'd let them sit because that's where I hovered around comfortably. So I could finish a 42 rift pretty well, but 43 was kind of pushing it, and then I got a really good rift on my 44, and then almost pushed to 45. But I just always hovered around there just farming, and God, the experience and the gold after the patch was insane. I'm like so rich now, and I haven't even seen a goblin portal.
Nice.
Yeah, a bunch of guys in the guild recently were really getting up into the low 40s with their hardcore wizards just the last few days, and saying how crazy the experience is. You know, you don't really realize it until you're doing greater rifts over 40 routinely.
Mm-hmm.
But they're worth so much more than T6 in experience.
No, just from farming, I'm sitting at 650 million, and I was before the patch at maybe like 90 million, just from doing greater rifts, like a lot of greater rifts.
You know, greater rifts don't drop gold, right?
You get the bonus.
Just all the rewards at the end.
Right? Yes. No. Exactly. Like all I ran for the past 2 weeks, right before the season ended, was greater rifts, and we hit...
Well, you had to get all your keys to 42 and then not use them, so
exactly.
That was a big time example.
Well, I mean, I know I had over 134 keys at one point that I just farmed, just repeatedly.
Well, 5 minutes a rift and a guaranteed key on T6, they add up, right?
Yeah.
So, So how will you guys feel with the whole Season 1 thing in terms of there were a few new legendary items? I mean, obviously we all feel it kind of went a couple months. I was really surprised they didn't end it around Christmas time. They kind of said the patch was done then, but they didn't want to launch a big patch when everyone was going on vacation for 2 weeks. So, I mean, sorry, when they were stripping the entire team to make a World of Warcraft RPG. Oh wait, that was the rumor, right? That must be true though, because it was on the internet. So, I mean, did you find... I really enjoyed Chrome's Belt just for the super fast running speed of it. I mean, there wasn't anything else that I was really using that was new. I wanted to love the rapid-fire bow for the Demon Hunter, but it just wasn't viable. I don't know what... I love rapid-fire, but I don't know what they could have done to make that bow useful.
Yeah, I don't...
It might actually be useful in the next... when they finally get that new Demon Hunter patch in. If you multi-shot bonus, the damage increasing with your discipline. Because rapid fire is so fun to burn down single targets, but it's just never viable, compared to the AOE skills. So,
right.
And plus sentries don't fire it, so it's kind of useless there. But did you guys use any of the new gear? There wasn't a whole lot of other stuff. And obviously, you're going to be prejudiced nerd words because you were at BlizzCon last year along with myself, and we were all excited about these new sets that we were trying, 4 months ago, and they're still not in the goddamn game yet. So.
Yeah, it makes me really sad. I really just want to test them. I even tried to look up a video of it, and I realized that there's nothing online to even show it to somebody.
Only your memories.
Yeah.
Like the slow time wizard set and that stuff.
Yeah, it was so much fun.
And Nerdwords can tell you all about that. Go for it.
No, it was just a really, really nice set. It was a lot of fun to play. It just felt...
Well, tell them what it did. I mean, people who don't remember. I mean, BlizzCon was a long time ago.
Well, okay, so the new set, it was the Delcer's Magnum Opus, or however, Delceray's Magnum Opus, however they pronounce it, but the 2-piece set bonus made it to where, what was it? It was Magic Missile, Shock Pulse, Arcane Orb, and Energy Twister. All those spells reduce the cooldown of slow time by 1 second. And then the second... or the 4-piece bonus made it to where everything inside of slow time took 1,250% weapon damage, over 3 seconds if they were inside the orb. So essentially, they were just like, it was an instant Firebird dot without it having to tick or to build up. And then the final set piece bonus was anything inside the slow time bubble that was hit by Arcane Orb, Energy Twister, Magic Missile, or Shock Pulse took 500% more damage. So your like Arcane Orbs were hitting like crazy high. It was like 30 and 35 million crits. It was really, really nice.
And you could get multiple slow times out at once because the cooldown worked so well.
Well,
you could get 3-4 of those sitting on the screen.
Well, yeah, and they added in the helmet, the Crown of the Primus, which made it unlocked all the runes for slow time. And then they gave you the one that reduced the cooldown for slow time by like 68%. So you were just spamming slow time all over the map. Nothing could hit you, and you were popping them with frozen orbs that just blew them to pieces. It was a lot of fun to play. It was a lot of fun. But we got it on like tier 16 Greater Rift, so you couldn't really judge how good it's going to be until we can test it.
Right.
Yeah, it was kind of ludicrous. The only thing in the demo was what, GR 15 or 16 or whatever.
Yeah.
Which is like, T3.
But
so.
it was a lot of fun to play.
And you're running through doing, 50 million crits with every class, and it's like, hey, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
You're one-shotting elites and stuff. So,
but I will say I actually use the seasonal legendaries quite a bit. Chrome's belt specifically because it paired well with a wizard skill called Dominance that makes it to where every time you kill a mob, essentially you get a absorption shield for like 16,000 health that stacks up to 10 times. So essentially, if you're at 10 stacks, you can take 160,000 damage before you start taking damage. So with that up, that buff was up all the time. If you're doing Torment 6 and you're using Firebird, you're burning stuff like crazy. So that you always had shields, which meant you were never taking damage, which meant you had a permanent 25% run speed, plus your Wars of Carrion armbands. I mean, you could just speed rifts. It was crazy. And then the Aether Ward wand, or Aether Walker wand, the teleport wand. I mean, I think every wizard switched that in and out to do bounties and everything else because that wand was awesome. But, I mean, you weren't using those at the higher end Greater Rifts, but they were still really useful in a lot of the meta games, so it was cool.
Yeah, the fun thing is when you get geared enough that you can do different stuff in T6 versus Greater Rifts. I mean, if people are plugging along at just in T1 or T3 or something like that, you're kind of using the best thing you can do.
Yeah.
But once you get pretty well geared, T6 becomes very easy, and you can start just doing like stuff for speed or stuff for, you don't need like your elite damage gear all on because you can kill bosses anyway and stuff. So you can use Chrome's belt instead of Witching Hour or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
which is fun. So first world problems, right?
Right, exactly. I mean, you would switch out, like, I'd have a T6 set and then a Greater Rift set, and I'd switch out rings and then gems, my weapon even, because I would run a Furnace for Greater Rifts, but when I was doing T6, I would run a Devastator and an Offhand so that I could do, like, more fire damage than elite damage. So, I mean, like, you had so many different builds you could do just depending on what your goal was that day.
Yeah, I've come to consider the same question a minute ago, Wolfpaq, but I've come to people were debating the whole, do we need more levels of Torment? And I was strongly in the yes camp when I was playing on the PTR.
Yeah.
Because I was doing like GR45 just easily with my Demon Hunter, and T6 was just ridiculous. I mean, even once you're doing like Greater Rifts over 30 routinely, if you go back to T6, it feels like you're on cheat mode.
Oh, yeah,
you're like,
no, it's disgusting.
What am I doing here? But at the same time, it's supposed to be easy, and it kind of lets you, like we were saying, you can gear for T6. You basically gear down to it.
Yeah.
You're adding movement speed, and you're not worried about so much massive damage because you have plenty of damage even with just half your total output kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And if there was a T8 or a T10, you would kind of feel like you had to play that all the time, right? And so you'd always be in the same gear. You'd always be in your highest end gear.
Right.
And you wouldn't feel anything special about Greater Rifts in terms of higher difficulty because you could do that normally.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's nice the way it is now. I just wish there was a faster way to get to higher Greater Rifts than doing the trials. I know that they just talked about that in the Tavern Talk, but I still really wish. I just want a drop-down menu.
So how was your overall Season 1, Wolfpaq? I mean, you said you retired once you beat the game.
Yeah, I mean,
did you use the new gear? Did you play differently than you were in non-seasonal? What was the overall?
Yeah, I mean, I got that Aether wand for the wizard, and I used that a lot until I found a Sunkeeper to go with my Firebirds offhand, and I never did find a Furnace, but I was never interested in pushing super high rifts, so that wasn't a big deal for me. And I think, do you remind me what the Crusader of Season 1 Legendary was? Was it the shield that made Condemn cost 40?
I don't even remember.
I'm pretty sure.
I have no idea.
I'm pretty sure it was that shield because my Crusader was a Condemn Crusader, which relied on the shield that removed Condemn's cooldown, and made it cost cost, and then so running around in permanent champion mode with all my skills costing half the wrath costs. I don't think that the condemned build really would have worked before that shield. Like it was called like Freya's something or something like that. But yeah, I was rocking the condemned build, and my wizard was seriously enjoying unlimited teleports, which, like you said, it may not have been ideal to use that wand in Greater Rift 45, but it was fantastic in rushing around T6 looking for Hellfire rings Hellfire or the keys, not rings.
Right.
Keys to make the amulet, which I made a few of and had terrible luck, and I pretty much lost interest because I wasn't interested in doing higher Greater Rifts, and the RNG for those Hellfire amulets is kind of absurd. So
yeah, it's a little nuts.
Yeah, once I had made like 3 of those, I said, all right, and then that's when with my wizard I said, okay, I'll try a new class. Made the Crusader, geared him up, had a lot of fun with him, but he was clearing T6, and then I said, okay, that's enough Diablo for now.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the Hellfire amulets, because I was doing some of those lately. I mean, I got strong enough that I was, T6 was sort of a joke, so I was just zooming around trying to think, oh, I've never really done a Hellfire amulet. I'll run for some of those here before season's ends. And it's like, God, the keys are slow to farm now,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, once you can do T6, it's effortless to get, the organs from the bosses. I remember back in D3V, it was kind of the opposite, where keys weren't that hard to get, but then it was like, MP10 was like hella scary, especially if you're hardcore.
Yeah.
So you could do multiple Ubers, and you'd be doing on MP5 or 6 or something, and you might get unlucky, and you'd always have like, you'd have 430 of the organs. You're like, God damn it!
Yeah.
And you couldn't control which portal you were going to open, and so you try to open one and just hope it would be the one you needed. And of course, it never was.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's kind of the opposite now. Where it's like you run the keys, and the keys are, I think it's 50% drop rate on T6 or less than that. I don't know. It's not enough though. And you need 4 keys for each one, so you got to do at least 16 keys, and that's like at least 32 runs. And the Dogger Oasis is the biggest level ever. It's like, oh god, biggest level outside of Act 5, I guess.
Yeah.
Thank God they gave that guy the big missile dampening circle, so you kind of can see him when you go zooming by.
Yeah.
You can just run around until you see that big circle, and then once in a while, like every 10 games, you get that on some other boss that's just some random guy. You're like, oh god damn it.
I don't want to actually kill elites.
I always
I'm wasting time with this bullshit. I'm trying to get a key here.
The key warden in Act 3 always hides in those corridors, in those little corners. I always miss him and have to run all the way back and try to find him when I'm doing those runs. That's so frustrating.
Yeah, I always check the corners. I hate to have to run back. It's only like one every 20th time you have to run back.
Yeah,
but
it's still...
you feel so stupid when you do.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, Christ.
It's like I should have checked that corner. Damn it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's that one little, there's the big kind of on the far left corner one time, there's sort of that little second ramp you have to run from the outside of. But there's a couple of places like where you find the journal from the guy. There's a big hole in the floor, and there's a little tiny space on the right there.
Yeah.
Right before kind of the broken part where you split.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I get like 5 times I've had him from that little corner then, and I never run on the far right of that part and look. And it's like you have to go all the way back just to check that one spot afterwards. You're like, I hate you so much.
Yep. It's almost
Wilson.
the same spot too.
Wilson.
Wilson.
See, that's a
keep
prime
pushing
example.
Until that becomes a thing.
It's a prime example.
Yeah, and you better keep the game going good here, Wyatt, or once you're gone, we'll be saying Wyatted.
Wyatt.
Changed!
Changed sounds so much better. I like it.
Yeah, he gave us a shout out on Twitter a couple days ago about the podcast, so I shouldn't be burning that bridge, but too late. So I'm looking at the other seasonal items, and they weren't too impressive. It's funny, right at the start of the seasons, I found the monk one, the Vengeful Fist, which doubled your sweeping wind stacks up added up to 3 more stacks. And it was really fun if you did the pull build, because you'd have 6 stacks of sweeping wind, you just pull stuff in, and they would just get ground up instantly. But then I died with that. I died with that character and played more additional monks and never could find that stupid fist again. So I have never used it since, and it wasn't really all that great for T6 and above anyway. But it was fun to play in the meantime. But coming soon, we have Season 2 Legendaries. Ooh, Season 2 Legendaries. And I had them right here in front of me. Now I can't find the page. Okay, here we go. Season 2 Legendaries. There's 3 new Legendary Gems. They're all kind of, Gem of Ease is amazing. I did a whole article about that. It's like the ultimate twink item.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that, actually.
So basically, your second character could be super fast.
Oh, wait, that's actually, now that you say that, that's the reason why I was waiting for Season 2 to start my Demon Hunter. That way I can, that way I can use that, hopefully.
Yeah, so you'll level up your wizard, and then you'll get your Greater Rifts and stuff.
My first alt
get your
ever.
Gem of Ease to 25.
My first alt ever will be because of the Gem of Ease. Thank you, Blizzard. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so Gem of Ease goes in a weapon, and it adds 500 monster experience per kill, goes up by 50, yeah, 50 per level, and that also gets scaled up on higher difficulty levels. And the cool part is at rank 25, the level requirement becomes level 1 for any weapon you put it in.
Yeah.
So I did a whole article about that months ago on the PTR, and I was using a 2760 ancient one-handed weapon on a level 1 character, which is like, I don't know, 87k DPS with nothing but the weapon on me or something
Yeah.
like that. And so I was just leveling up, I think I hit level 42 in about 8 minutes, something like that. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous how fast you level up with that item on.
That's
You're getting
exciting.
2,000 experience per kill, and you're doing, you're one-shotting everything until like level 35 with no other gear on at all. So it's just really dangerous with hardcore because you so quickly get above your head. It's like if you had a special weapon that could raise the wave of trials by 25 suddenly,
Oh yeah.
and it's like you're doing great, and all of a sudden you're on wave 67. It's like, okay, I'm dead.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it's like, but it's in the actual game. Where just, in like 4 kills, you'll go from like level 25 to level 40. And obviously you're not putting on gear, you're not putting on anything. So your vitality and your toughness is still like nothing.
Yeah.
And you're just one-shotting everything, and suddenly you're in Soviet Russia, and one-shotting is you. But that one's fantastic. So do you have a second? Are you going to rush your second character up, Wolfpaq? So when you get bored and want to play a Crusader, you can Gem of Ease them.
It'll be a while because I want to get a barb fully geared up because, like I said, I've never played the barb, and so. But I'll probably use that Gem of Ease before the season's over for sure. Because I do like making other characters. I had a hardcore character of every class to level 70 by the time season 1 was over. It's just I wasn't interested in spending the time to gear any of them up after the Crusader and the Wizard.
You're just an achievement whore?
I guess I mean it was fun to play, although, and plus I was really enjoying like how like I would rush people would rush me. Like it's crazy how fast, even without this Gem of Ease, just if you have a buddy, how fast you guys can level each other up to level 70 once one or both of you is geared. So it's not as huge of a deal to me, this Gem of Ease, because I've been rushing and getting rushes.
Because you have friends.
I mean,
you're not a sad, lonely person who has to power level
no,
yourself, basically.
The clan people power level you.
Yeah, someone just died recently in the clan, and he was like, I had a new character at level 10, and I think he just came and sat in my T6 rifts, at the stair at the entranceway.
Yeah.
And I think it took 8 levels of rifts before he was back to 70.
Yeah, there you go.
Like, I did one rift 1 through 5, and the next one I was up to level 3, and he was already 70, which was like, 20 minutes or something.
Yeah,
so
yeah, exactly.
It's not exactly a real struggle, but still, but still. So the other two, Esoteric Alteration is 10% physical damage reduction, and it gives you lots more when you level it. And at rank 25, when you're below half life, all your resistances are increased by 75%. The other one is Molten Wildebeest Gizzard, which Mom used to make in the bathtub at home, and it was really good. Actually, you're in Alabama, right, Nerdwords? That's probably like the state dish, right?
Oh yes, I had
Molten
it actually
Wildebeest
for dinner.
Gizzard?
Yep.
Yeah, indeed. Or supper, as you say down there. And that is 10,000 regen a second, and upgrades at 1,000 per second. And at level 25, after not taking damage for 4 seconds, you get an absorb shield for 200% of your life per second. So it's like, unless you get one-shotted, you will never die if you have that item on, basically. And I mean, you don't play hardcore in Nerdwords, so these are of absolutely zero interest to you whatsoever. But
that's actually not
I mean, most
true.
people in hardcore.
That's not true at all. You guys always say that, but there is, with greater rifts, there is something to be said for being able to stay alive. I mean, it's obviously not nearly as important. I get that.
But the danger is you get one-shotted by Jailer from off the screen.
Yeah,
so.
I am excited about these though because it might alleviate there's the possibility after some testing to see if you can drop a Unity and have these things, or if you can drop certain things and use these instead or in place of certain mitigation. So there is something to be said for them. I'm really excited about the life regen one because I don't know if you guys remember, but back in like early vanilla,
this is the state dish of Alabama.
Right, yeah, exactly. But back in the early days of Diablo 3 vanilla, there was a force armor build for the wizard that basically was you stacked low vitality and a lot of life regen to stay alive because nothing would one-shot you. It made it to where if it would one-shot you, it would instead take 1/3 of your health. So that said, if you're stacking at 40, 50,000 life regen, I don't know. It could be pretty interesting. Because, I mean, a lot of the builds at higher greater rifts are built around not getting hit at all anyways because everything one-shots you. If you've got that much life regen and you're not going to get one-shotted, it might be really cool.
Yeah, it's the case nobody uses any of the defensive gems. I mean, okay, not nobody, but very, very seldom. Even on hardcore, nobody uses them. You
Right.
know, you're better off just getting toughness and then using offensive gems. But I'm be curious to see if anybody actually uses these things.
Right, and that's it. I just want to get in and test them, see how they are.
And the other class, other stuff, Crusaders got a new belt that casts bombardment on random enemies, and no one cares. Demon Hunter's got a bow that adds damage, 20 to 25% more damage for anything with entangling shot on them, which I could almost see working, but not quite. The Wizard gets the new ring, which is an old ring, which gives you a nice armor thing. And the one I mentioned earlier, the Barbarian gets a belt that adds frenzy, gives you a frenzy effect on every rune,
Oh,
which
yeah.
will still suck, but it'll be fun. I like frenzy on barbs, even though it's kind of useless. And of course, the Monk gets the Gung to Go gear, which we were able to test out on the PTR quite a bit.
Which is probably because we tested out the best legendary coming in the seasonal batch, I feel like.
Yeah, I didn't think it really worked that well. It worked awesome on really high greater rifts.
Yeah.
It worked well if stuff lived long enough to crowd around you, or on really dense rifts. But the radius of the explosion was so small that it was really hard to get the whole domino effect going.
But
I mean, like Wave of Trials, it's like spectacular. We're in Realm of Trials.
yeah.
But ordinarily, it was really hard to find a level where there was enough density. I wasn't even using it on T6 after a while on the PTR because you
Really?
would never have you would never have a need for it basically. Kind of like we were saying 5 minutes ago, right? Where you just don't need that highest level gear for T6
Right,
anymore.
yeah.
But I could see that being really good on like greater rift 45 or something where you're really getting huge crowds and that way everything it works basically like the March for Death Demon Hunter thing where you just sort of everything eventually is marked for death if they're close enough because they don't die in one shot.
Right, yeah.
And of course, the one you're most excited about is Wormwood, where you get free Locust Swarm from your Witch Doctor's staff. You'll both be rolling that one first thing, right?
Yeah,
They-
no, probably not.
So when I was trying to decide which character I wanted to play in season 2, originally I was thinking Witch Doctor because I haven't played a Witch Doctor too much. I think besides Barbarian, it's the other class I played the least, and they were making changes so that poison for a dot build, basically the Jade Witch Doctor, should be viable because they made Hunt poison and they're introducing this Wormwood that would allow you to keep Locust Swarm off your bar. But they made like a really interesting, from what I was reading on the Witch Doctor boards, like decision when they were implementing the new Hunt rune, which came out in this patch. The new Hunt rune basically turns Hunt into poison damage, which you weren't able to do before, and then it makes the monster supposedly take 20% more damage from all sources, but it doesn't apply to Hunt itself, and that kind of ruins its functionality because Hunt is the biggest source of damage for a Jade Witch Doctor, both in terms of the dot itself and when you're consuming it to do all the stacks. It like that consummation also doesn't get advantage from the 20% boost. So basically you're
wow.
increasing the Locust Swarm damage with that 20%. And seeing as the alternative was casting Hunt on 2 targets at once, which, I mean, you know, it's kind of painful to manually dot up everything one at a time. I just don't see how that's a good trade-off. I think they really made a mistake with that. But I read multiple like leadership, like not leadership, like community leaders who had tested it extensively and said, yeah, this new Hunt rune is not affecting the poison. So, anyways, I was excited about Wormwood at first, and in fact, when I played on the PTR, I farmed one, and I had a lot of fun running around, watching things just get dotted up. But I'm sad that they implemented it that way, or they made that decision to not let Hunt affect itself. Because it was sounding kind of cool, right? You would have the Piranha's 15% damage amp, and maybe the Toxic Gem 10% damage amp, and then the Hunt 20%. Like that's a lot of damage amp for your party, but if you're ever playing by yourself, not being able to take advantage of the biggest boost, like that's just not quite as exciting in my eyes, anyway.
Yeah.
You're
So I'm really,
going to be a curse bitch again, basically.
yeah, I'm not excited about Wormwood. That's the moral of that rant. And I wanted to be, which makes me just sad.
So any of the new legendaries in season 2 are pushing you to want to try them? Nine ball. You're not nine ball. Who are you again? Nerd ball. Nerd word.
No, yeah, I mean, I'm excited
Nine
to try
words.
out the ring if I get it. I mean, like, it's one of those things to where when you're going into Diablo 3 now, like, you obviously have a mindset of where you want to be at the end, but, like, it's kind of like what you find as you're leveling up that you, like, kind of use. So I'm excited. I hope I get it, like, early because I feel like if I get the ring of the Arliss ring or whatever, I don't even know what it's called. I feel like if I got it,
Halo of Arliss.
Halo
Arliss.
Arliss, whatever.
Arliss. Arlyse. Arls?
Arls. No, I don't know. I hope I get it early because if I get it late, I feel like it's not something that will be useful. I guess I don't know. I have to see the testing and stuff on it. I have to see the numbers and get my hands on it and use it myself. But I'm not like super pumped on it. Not like I was for the wand. But I'm actually probably more excited to find last season's wand this season than I am that ring. Honestly, because I know if I find that early, I was my first legendary when I dinged 70. So I use that to like get. I still have like thousands of rift keys because of that wand. So I don't know. We'll see.
Speaking at the sort of a random digression about that, but I was thinking about that while playing. After the season ended, and suddenly you have 5 million gems and other things and rift keys. And I was like, what if there was another level of gems, and it took you 10 of the highest level gems? So there'd be 10 flawless. What do they call it? Imperial? No, that was
Flawless
Royal.
Yeah.
Royal is the highest level. So what if it took you 10 flawless royal gems to make the next gem up? And it wasn't even that big a difference. It was just like the same progression, another 5% crit damage in your weapon. But if you have 700 Imperial emeralds sitting in your stash, nothing else to do with them, I would do it. I mean, why not, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we talked about that, about trading like one color gem for another, and I was like, I'll literally trade all of mine for one, because they're useless to me at a certain point.
Have you ever used the new crown? Well, it's not the broken crown. It's the other one that gives you, an extra gem of the kind in your hat every time you find a gem.
I tried it. I had it in my inventory for a while to switch out if I found like a goblin pack or something, or a treasure or one of the gem goblins. But I used it like once or twice, and I at this point don't need gems anyways. So, but I could see it being useful in this season coming up. But when it was implemented, I was already at a point to where I didn't need any more gems. So we'll see.
Yeah, if you're non-seasonal now, it's ridiculous. There's all the gems in the world.
Right.
But as you say, seasonal. That was I found that on the PTR. I was like, you need so many. I needed so many emeralds on the PTR because I was doing a demon hunter, and you need it for your weapon, and you got 5 armor slots, and you need what is it, 27 Imperials for each flawless royal, so 81 marquees for each one, and times 5 or times 6. It's a lot of damn gems, but that hat was awesome for that. But so do you have a level 70 plans, Wolfpaq? So once you hit, obviously we're talking about the rush to 70, but that's only the first day or less than that for some of us, apparently. The first half an evening for some of us.
Yeah, hopefully.
And then when you get to 70, what do you do? I mean, you have no gear. Do you save all your blood shards up? Are you going to do rifts on the way up so you have 500 when you get to 70 and you can start to gamble?
I think the plan was to do bounties on the way up. It may not be the most efficient, but that way we'll have a ton of rift shards, so we can just hop right into rifts and get enough. I mean, not like high difficulty rifts, just like normal or hard or expert rifts, and start getting that baseline for Torment 1 with all the rift shards we gathered as we were leveling.
And you get blood shards. Obviously, those help a lot
Exactly.
when you're first gearing.
Yeah, and to gamble.
Didn't you just do the keep level 3 last time the whole way to 70?
I did. Yeah,
that was like your super fast technique.
I joined. There was a guy in the clan named Herc, and he invited me, and it was like 4 of us, and it was the nice thing about it is it was super safe. Like you knew what you're getting every time, just a bunch of slow melee monsters, and so. But
it was the fastest way to level. I mean, other than the cheat and softcore.
Yeah, it was super dense, and at a certain point, we just didn't bother. Like if we went down a path and we would have had to backtrack a lot in order to keep going, we'd just say no, just leave the game and start the game again, rather than trying to clear out the whole thing. So trying to optimize our time spent killing monsters versus just running around empty spaces, which, from what I've seen, the level 3 is one of the best places for that. I think it's the Halls of Agony, level 3.
Yeah,
is what I was doing in Act 1, like right before.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing with the leveling. Like, there's no point. They took out the achievement, the conquest, to reach level 70, because that was the whole rush last time. Was you wanted to get there, so then you get this, this global broadcast of you have reached level 70 and your EPing would swell.
Yeah.
But they took that out, so now it's like you don't even get EPing for it. So. It seems to me like you'd be better off doing bounties or rifts, so you could stock up on rift keys and blood shards.
Yeah, the plan is
So
to
you
do.
take half an hour longer to get to 70, but when you get to 70, you've got 487 blood shards, and you can immediately get 2 legendary items, that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
the plan is to do bounties on the way up, so that you.
So you're preparing for the long run, long haul, not just trying to get to 70 2 minutes faster.
I actually wasn't aware that they took that conquest out, and it makes me a little sad.
Yeah, no, that's Jay Wilson's clutching cold hand from the grave, destroying our fun once again.
Wilson's.
Wilson.
Oh man.
So do you have your whole planned out this time, Nerdwars? Are you planning what you get to 70, or because your soft core doesn't matter and all you need is DPS and you can just go to T6 immediately?
No, yeah, I am.
I haven't said that enough yet.
I know,
have I?
right?
Should I
No,
say it
every
so?
time, I swear to God. Every time I'm on the podcast, I swear. No, I do have we got it kind of planned out. I did some testing. When the patch hit, I just leveled 5 wizards to 40 by myself, just to in several different ways, and kind of clocked it to see. And
Did you multi-box and you did all 4 at once?
no, I did them separately. It's the only leveling I've done outside of my other wizard, so it was intense and boring, but it was worth it because I found out that I seemed to clear or to get more experience. It took about the same amount of time, but I ended up with more experience doing bounties. But what my plan is to do bounties up to a certain point, like probably 30s or 40s, and then use all of those rift keys to just rift till the end. Because once I hit 70, the first thing I'm going to do is probably bounties to get a ring or try to get a lucky drop on a ring at a low difficulty. Until I get enough keys. If I'm sitting on 50 rift keys, then I'll jump in and do rifts until I can get geared enough to do T6. But my plan is to hit Paragon 200 before I do anything with greater rifts, and then jump in from there. I mean, well, I'll do greater rifts, but not push greater rifts. I'll do low level greater rifts to get the gems and then level them.
You're gonna slow step,
Ish.
wait 9 minutes, and then...
Yeah, basically, yeah. Well, what we did last season, which worked out well, which wasn't the most efficient, I guess, but it seemed pretty good, was we would run a rift and we'd blow through it, and then while that rift was done, we would then split up and all go do bounties. We would do all of Act 1's bounties, and we'd finish, come back, and then finish the rift, and then go up to level 2, and then start a new game, do it again, and it was a really good way. I mean, we were getting good gear out of the greater rifts. We were getting our gems out of the greater rifts. We were getting our rift keys so we could run more regular rifts. And then obviously the world drops and goblin portals and stuff. So it was good.
Yeah, so if anybody listening doesn't know, as long as you beat a rift with less than 4 minutes and 30 seconds left, you only go up 1 level in the rift key.
Yeah.
So the trick, you get to the boss and with 11 minutes to go, and then you run off and do other stuff for 7 minutes or whatever, and then you come back and finish it. The trick is to make sure you don't cast the town portal when you're getting back from the bounty, because then you're like, oh god damn it, now you run through 5 levels of the rift.
Or just have one of your friends stay in the rift and wait on you. But that would only be if someone had to use the bathroom or something, then someone would just wait. But
so you portal out of the rift, and then you use the waypoint map to go to the bounties, and then you return to town with the waypoint map. Do not hit town portal when you're out in the desert.
So
I've done that many times by accident.
I was reading a technique people were saying, when you first start the rift, leave a big group of monsters at the beginning, and then cut your run short when you're at 98, 99%. And then you don't have to worry about using town portal again, because you'll have that big group in the beginning, and you can spawn the rift boss right away. You get below that 430.
And you would know too.
So by the entrance to the first level, you just skip a bunch of monsters, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, with the wizard, you would just use the Aether Ward or Aether Walker, and as soon as the rift started, just zip straight to the back wall, and leave whatever was right around the beginning of the portal. And then you'd do all that. We'd split up, do our bounties, come back, and then just come right in the front. Or if we were doing that method. But yeah, you could. There was a lot of things you could do like that. And then that was also the same thing they did with the conduit rift cheese. Because they would just leave a bunch of mobs around a conduit pylon, go clear the rest of the rift, then come back, clear those mobs, pop the rift guardian, and use a conduit pylon.
Oh, right.
And a winner is you.
Yep, that's what they did. And then they nerfed the conduit pylon, and then it became power pylons. and yeah, but yeah, that was something. Once I was turned on to that idea, I was like, oh, this is actually really useful because you can use it to set the rift guardian up wherever you want them.
Oh yeah.
Or if you're a demon hunter, you just look for a channeling pylon, because that's just hey, unlimited resource.
Oh, it's disgusting. Yeah.
Instacast 5 sentries and unlimited resource. Hey, I win.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I was doing the same thing. You're playing. I was playing a monk and doing Wave of Light, and it's channeling pylons didn't even help me. I mean, I could cast 2 more waves of light. You wouldn't even need it.
Oh
but
yeah.
With a demon hunter, where your whole bottleneck is resource, That's just ridiculous. I mean, that was better than a conduit or a power pylon.
See, with a wizard on greater rifts, it wasn't really useful because you're using Hydra and Blizzard, and like
Yeah.
so there's no cooldown there, and Blizzard doesn't stack, so multicasting it doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah, your bottleneck is not resource,
Right,
so it's irrelevant.
but on Torment 6, you ran like Molten Impact instead, and your Blizzard and Molten Impact would just destroy. That was a lot of fun, but. I really actually like the new speed pylon. That was when I would get a speed pylon in greater rifts. That would usually set me up like pretty well because being able to clip mobs as a Firebird wizard was like the jam.
And see, that was not good with the Demon Hunter because you would run so fast. You had to get your. I mean, it wasn't bad on T6, but you'd run into stuff. And I'm doing the cold build with a cluster bear.
Yeah.
With the cluster, and so I have the helm on. You get your reduction of cost if you don't get hit. It's hard not to get hit when you're running at 85%. You run right into range attackers before you even see them.
Yeah, well,
and you're like, well, shit. There's 10 seconds of wasted time basically.
Oh yeah, that's true. But I will say that's kind of the good thing about that gem or that pylon now because it knocks everything back too. So it would give you that window to not get hit. You just run straight through them.
Yeah.
Just Blizzard run, Blizzard run, Blizzard run.
Range attacks would always get me with that one. It's kind of a pain.
Yeah,
obviously,
and with sentries, having to plant those is a little different too.
Yeah, and well, it doesn't matter so much now because the sentries don't really do any damage themselves. You just need them as they're just sort of a full-time buff.
Yeah.
So as long as you just remember to cast whenever you.
How do you like that, by the way? Do you like the changes? Do you think it's better, or do you like it better the other way?
I wasn't a fan of the original Marauders M6.
Yeah.
I just found it boring. I mean, it was just you just cast your sentries and then you kind of stand around the corner and watch them do stuff.
Yeah.
And there was no resource management at all. It was just cooldown management. And you just had to wait until the little second hand run around and click another one. I found it really boring. So I was doing other builds before they even. I mean, I had an M6. I was playing some on US, but I was trying different versions of it and stuff.
Yeah.
And then I was on the PTR long before it was live. So I was playing it for quite a while, and I really enjoyed it much more then. So I've been playing it a lot more since it went live. I've done fire and cold. I read a whole big article about it a few weeks ago, like all the strategies and what you want to do with it and stuff. And so I've enjoyed it a lot. But I am very eager if we ever get that stupid multi-shot one in there.
Yeah, see, I'll be excited for that as well.
That's going to be crazy. And plus, really different gearing options because that one, the damage, at least the way it worked at BlizzCon, was your damage increased by all the discipline you had.
Yeah.
And currently, you don't even really need discipline. I mean, you need enough to survive and stuff. But I mean, you can play with 30 without too much trouble. And with that, you're going to be wanting 2 items of gnats to get the 20 more discipline, and you're going to want it on your quiver, and you're going to want it on your X-bow, and every point of discipline is worth 10% more total damage, so that's going to be a really interesting gearing option where you're certainly gearing for discipline instead of for damage. Well, I mean, for both, obviously, but
it just feels like it's
I'm
still
sure
so far away.
in season 7 when they finally get that set.
Yeah, exactly. It's just so far. I don't know. I mean, obviously they're not shooting for this season to be 5 months, but man.
Yeah, they said shorter seasons, and they said those new sets are set for version 2.20. Which I would assume will be, what goes up after season 2 ends when we get our week and a half of whatever.
Oh, that's good.
So, set some time apart in October when that'll come out.
Yeah, or whenever that gets out. Yeah.
So, any other topics you guys are dying to get into here, or I mean, anything from the tavern talk this week? I mean, there was a lot of. Yeah, that's a problem. We're working on it. There wasn't a whole lot of concrete solutions offered.
Yeah, I mean, other than the start date problem that I have, other than that, I'm fine. I mean, I wish they understood that some of us have real lives, because even with my job, I have to have notice to be able to take off of work. And the start of a season is something I'd really like to take off work for, but knowing we only got really about 2 weeks beforehand that we knew, which is better than last time. But I would at least. I don't know. I just would like a little more notice on when the season start date is, because they announced forever ago that it was going to be the 3rd when it ended, or at least that day they said. But it just took so long.
The new one will start about 2 weeks later. It's how can they not tell us?
But I mean, they're ironing that out. I mean, they're going to get surely it'll get smoother as it goes, and they'll be able to figure these things out ahead of time, because they gave us more notice this time, so maybe next time it'll be a little bit better. But next time, just don't put it right next to they'll do it on Mother's Day or something, and I'm going to murder them. I just stay away from the holidays that require our presence.
Why does Jay Wilson hate your mother?
Yeah. I got Wilson. He's not even there
because she's on Facebook. That's why. Yeah, don't call me Shirley, by the way.
But
so, what are your final thoughts, Wolfpaq?
I wish that season 2 would have had a larger variety of new legendaries, but if, like you said, 2.2 is going to have the new stuff, then I'm excited for season 3, and it's just a game, and if I don't have to play it religiously for the next 3 months of season 2, that I'll be okay with it. I mean, not play it as much as I played season 1, but I don't. If I get to Paragon 400, I'll be pretty happy with it as a whole.
Well, they took out all the crosses and pentagrams, so you can't play it religiously anymore. I'm afraid.
That's true. That's true.
But
Yeah.
so yeah. So the whole point, they had this whole thing in the tavern talk about what is the point of seasons, and people are like, it should be a whole new game and like major balance changes, and they're like, no, that's not going to happen. But they mentioned in the tavern chat they might do some shorter term seasons and like big changes, like you wouldn't be able to heal at all in this, which is kind of getting into, of course, everyone that says Path of Exile, because they have these really short seasons there with like funny rules.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't think, given that Path of Exile is basically Diablo 2.5, I mean, they took massive motivation and inspiration from that game. I don't think anybody's got a copyright on basic features of an RPG anymore.
Yeah.
Look, there's a health and a monoglobe. Oh, that's Diablo 1. You can't do that. I'm like, no, I think we can probably get around that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I don't think that they can be like, well, some other game has short seasons with funny rules. We can't have that. Like, well, they have armor and weapons and shields too. Are you gonna pick those out of your game? So I don't know. But I would be empty. I would be fine with short-term seasons that had weird rules and different things and ladder races. I mean, I kind of wish they had this whole season, first one to P250, and you win a new Porsche or something. You win Jay Wilson's parking spot. I mean, they're obviously not trying to push that kind of thing, but I don't know why they don't just start throwing out more random stuff, more variety. It's optional. You don't have to do it. Instead of just having this really slow progression of seasons with the exact same game and it lasts for 5 months, etc.
Yeah.
I could deal with more variety and more mixed up stuff.
Well, I mean, realistically, I feel like the season just carried us through the holidays for them. So it was like, okay, here's season stuff. You guys chill on this. We're going to go break for holiday and come back. So I feel like without the holidays, it wouldn't have been nearly as long. But
yeah, and people like Wolfpaq quit playing in Halloween and haven't played since.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm really excited to get into the season. Like, I wish there were more items and stuff too. I just want the sets. And not necessarily like. There was a post recently that Jake put up, kind of like a big rant post about things he'd like to see changed and like kind of the state of the game and stuff. And in that, he had mentioned something about like how everyone's kind of pigeonholed into sets, which is kind of the idea, that you'll be like, eventually you'll be either a Veer wizard or a Firebird wizard or a Talrasha wizard. But that it would be cool if they kind of like found ways to inspire like builds that were centered more on legendaries than sets or smaller sets even. Just to give more build variety, and which is something that I feel like a lot of people who played Diablo 2, like that's what runes kind of filled that hole, was like they would give you these like big boosts of power just from one item that would spent forever to build up and farm. I don't know. It would be nice to see something, because you're going to get a flood of items. Basically, they're going to keep adding items in, and it's going to feel kind of overwhelming to someone coming back or coming in or new or whatever. Yeah, there's those of us that play all the time, but that fluctuation of the fan base is what keeps Diablo going, and the interaction with that. And I just think they need to adding new items and new affixes to weapons and everything like that is really, really cool. I just want them to find a way to build it and make it interesting outside of sets, I guess.
Yeah, but you look at like Diablo 2, you just mentioned it. I mean, there were like 100 rune words that you couldn't find out unless you went to some website.
Right,
yeah. And they had all these completely weird properties, and there were so many more modifiers. I mean, talk about not easy access to new players.
Oh,
or
absolutely.
People who have been playing for a while.
No, yeah, not at all. That's not something I would say is a positive solution or would be something that I even want in the game. I don't want to. I mean, I've been playing a Firebird Wizard for 5 months, and now I'm going to jump in and play a Firebird Wizard for another probably 3 to 5 months. So I just want to be able to jump in with the hope of not just playing that. Now, this is where someone tells me to roll an alt, but I'm crazy, so.
And your Firebird Wizard always uses fire because no other element works with it either, so you're sort of pigeonholed there.
Yeah, it's literally like I already know my gear that I'll be chasing is exactly the gear that I have on my other wizard currently. But I'm okay with that, because I'm an insane person and like farming and playing with friends and getting in Skype or Mumble or Vent or whatever. But I would just like it if I found like a legendary and was like that wasn't a furnace that like affected my character in a way that that later on down the line, not just at level 50, made me go, oh, this is really cool. I want to try to use this. But the problem that you get with higher difficulty and mobs being so hard and hitting so hard and having so much health is that you kind of have to go for the maximum efficiency to be effective.
Okay, final thought, Wolfpack?
I'm ready for Friday.
Yeah, me too.
It's almost here. It's Wednesday night, so you got less than 48 hours to go. Ooh.
So close.
Hide your children, hide your wife. Okay, guys, thanks for your time. We've been listening to the Diablo 3 podcast. We are online at diablo8gamers.com, and this should be posted Friday morning, and seasons will start tonight. And we're doing another podcast Sunday night after the weekend, and maybe have these two guys and some other people on talking about how the seasons went and lamenting whatever horrible cheese ruined the softcore ladder race.
Yes.
That'll be Nerdword's part anyway.
Yes.
Until then, we will talk to you later, and enjoy your weekend of season 2. And moo.
Moo, 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 moo.
Cow sound effect. That was our preseason show. Right now we have a little bit of bonus content. I've been conducting some auditions the last few days, auditions practice chats with some new potential podcast guests. And while talking to Tyr, Master X, and Mokai, we had a pretty good conversation about waves, which everyone hates, Realm of Trials. And two of the guests actually didn't like them, to my surprise. Actually didn't hate them, to my surprise. And one of them did, and we had a pretty good chat for about 15 minutes here about the pros and cons of Realm of Trials, and what's good or bad about them, and how they have to work, and some logistical issues. If you remove them, how would you get people in the same level Rift in multiplayer games, etc. So that's a little bit of bonus content on this, not about seasons, and hopefully you will hear 1 or 2 or 3 of these guys on future podcasts as well. So enjoy, and season up. Boom, boom. Okay, so Realm of Trials, that's the topic everyone always brings up. Yes, no, or... So should they absolutely be removed from the game entirely? Do you not mind them at all? What is your 1 to 10? How bad are they? Just go in order. One letter answer. Tyr.
1 being bad and 10 being good.
Yeah, we'll do it that way. Sure.
I'm giving them an 8. To be honest, I don't think
What do
they're
you think,
a problem.
Master X?
I'd probably be about an 8. I don't have a problem with them either.
Okay, so you guys don't hate them. Everyone hates them, though. That's the rule. You have to hate them.
Yeah, you
I'm
have to
sorry.
hate them, and you
Okay.
have to
I'm
want
sorry.
more blood shorts.
From a 1 to 10, 1 being bad.
I don't know. I've kind of lost track here, to be honest. But I think they said when you guys set the rules. What was one?
1 bad,
You
10
guys-
Being
good.
bad.
I'd give it like a -45.
Okay, so you guys can have a blood sport battle here. So what's wrong with them, and then you guys can tell them why he's wrong.
Okay, I think they're a waste of time, honestly. Like, just think about how you have to. Okay, so you have to do.
But they serve a purpose, though, right?
I mean, they do, but they don't, because I just don't understand why there's so much
Looks
RNG
like
that goes
Valentine's
into the
Day.
trials. I mean, they're better now because there's less time between waves, and they've taken the Golgors out, but I don't feel it necessary to run a trial so that the game can tell me where I should start, a G-Rift when I've completed that G-Rift already, like that level G-Rift. I mean, I've had discussions with friends before about this, and it's a waste of time, and it's an extra step of RNG as well as just an extra step period to get to GRs, because you have to do bounties to get the Rift keys, you have to do Rift keys to get the trial keys, and you can do the trial keys to get the greater Rift keys. And that's just a lot of work when they can just add a drop-down menu for Auric or whatever, and have it be where the highest greater Rift that you've completed +1. That way there's options for you to advance as well as options for you to, obviously you do higher greater rifts in a group, and so let's say the highest one you've done is a 50. Then, you can go to Auric and say, hey, I want a level 40 key, here you go. And he gives it to you. You just trade in a trial key for it. And you just don't have to waste your time going into trials to do all that, because, there's a way to do trials, and it sucks because it's different from normal gameplay, if that makes sense.
Well, one of the things that Blizzard says about that is that you get a substantial reward for doing higher level greater rifts, which of course is upgrading your legendary gems. And since you don't have to do it in 15 minutes to be able to get that bonus, especially if you're softcore, you can just kind of zerg your way through any rift eventually.
Yeah.
Therefore, you shouldn't be able to enter really high rifts just because you once did it in a party with 3 demon hunters, right? So is that a balance issue? Do you see that? Do you see a
I mean,
problem
I
with
can
that,
see that
or
being a balance issue, but the other point that some of my friends have made is, they have the ability, they should have the ability to make it by character. Like, okay, your demon hunter has soloed this amount, so this is the highest you can go.
so if you could turn in, say, 10 rift keys at a time, would that make you happier? So if you finish, wave 44, then you get your 41 key, and instead of just turning in one key, you can turn it up to 10 at
Dude,
once. Would
okay,
that make
if
you
that
happier, or
if
that
that
still
were the
wouldn't be
case,
it?
that'd be fine. Like if we could do one rift and then be like, okay, Auric, I want 45 of these, or I want five.
So you wouldn't tear out the whole system necessarily, but you would like it just to be streamlined
A
and
little
not
more
waste them.
streamlined, just because it's so inefficient. You're just standing there. I mean, like I said, it's better now because, you know, they've made the time in between waves shorter, and they've also upped the gold as well as the XP that you get from it. But it's still another step, And I mean, I've done so many trials with the same group of people, and it literally depends on the monster type that comes out, for the wave that determines, you know, if you pass or not. Like back in the day when Golgors were still part of the waves. I mean, you got to wave 60, 65, and you hit Golgors, it was done. You couldn't. There's no way that you'd be able to pass
Well,
that.
as we've said on the podcast in the past, if you can't get screwed by RNG, it's not a Diablo
I
game.
know, and that's true.
So
And
that's
I
your
guess
way to
this
get.
is
You have to
this
be
is
able to
their
be
way.
screwed by RNG.
This is their way of screwing.
Golgors equal FU in waves, right?
You better be
You always just
praying
want
to
to say
RNG.
Golgor like they say it, like the guy who only has one word on Game of Thrones.
Oh yeah.
Hodor.
Hold on.
Okay, either of you guys want to jump in until you defend a wave of trials?
Yeah.
I've got a couple things. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I just want to make 2 points.
Go ahead.
One, I recently rewatched the Tavern Talk from yesterday, and I also watched for the first time the Tavern Talk from a couple months ago. And one thing that I think Dave was saying was that you don't want to remeasure yourself just
To go
after
on just the
completing.
fun ride, yeah.
It's stupid. It's like I just did this. Can I do it again? And that's a very fair point. And I think it can use some work. But one of the things that I can't remember names for the life of me. One of the other guys said was that um, it streamlines the communication. It's like, oh, I'm on Greater Rift 30. Well, I'm on a Greater Rift 38. Oh, I'm still on Greater Rift 18. When you join a public game, it it needs to be an intuitive way to just like, okay, this is where we are as a group. It may not be as good as some of the guys solo, but that's not the point. It's just this is where you are as a group. This is where you can start. And that makes sense. And also, as Flux said, it's not a Diablo game unless you're playing to RNGs.
Yeah, if you can't get screwed by RNG, what's the point, right?
Yeah.
So what was your thing on those, Tier?
A few different things. So obviously the system is not perfect, but I think that's just an inherent part of game design. Everyone's going to come up with some way to complain. And I think probably the strongest defense I can give for them is that no one's come up with a satisfactory replacement that doesn't have its own major problems. So for instance, people recommend, oh, well, I've clocked in at Greater Rift 39 on my monk, and obviously they can track that sort of thing. I don't know what the amount of back end work on it would be, but I know that they could do it. One of the issues that you run into is simple player fatigue. So I don't know how enjoyable it will be once the option is available to me to just run 39s until my eyes bleed. For me to do that, because you know that no one's going to go back and run a 35 just for fun. They're not going to do that. What they're going to do is they're going to pound their face against the highest Greater Rift that they can possibly complete or not complete. Um,
I have one word for you:
forever.
hardcore.
And yeah, hardcore players love that. But again, you're designing for a very broad audience game, and people will just wear themselves out, and they'll feel like there's no reason for them to futz around in any of the lower rifts. I think what the current rift system does is provide some breakups in terms of the type and difficulty of content that you're running. Which is really valuable. I think it's one of the reasons that the rifts and bounty system actually works so well is simply because you have other things to do, and in some cases you're kind of nudged, if not forced, just a little bit to go and do them. You have to run bounties for so and so long at least to get rift keys. And eventually people just stock up enough of them that they don't have to, but folks still go back. They go do Ring of Royal Grandeur, they go and look for Infernal Machine keys, that kind of stuff. And I think that's important. It's a good part of gameplay. The other thing that I would mention is that when you remove that stuff, what you're doing simply is just removing an inconvenience. And sure, people want to play a game and they just want to have fun. They want to do what they want to do. And that's respectable. I have nothing against that. The only problem with that is that there are so many other points in the game where you could remove time. And in the grand scheme of things, even though they seem like a lot, greater rifts don't add up to much. I would be willing to bet that if you, for instance, made crafting materials run over to pick up, you'd probably save at least twice the amount of time that you spend in rifts. Just from having that simple change. So it may not be a priority for them to do it at the moment. And beyond that, I just don't think it's a good idea to remove a system. And again, this is going back to what Master said, and it's a reiteration of what they said on the Tavern Talk. That system is organically flexible. So when you have people who are running with folks who they've never run with before, they're going to need to have a system there that will organically gauge the difficulty of what they need to be running. So I'd probably, if it were me, I might say every trial that you run, you get 3 rift keys, perhaps, of a single level, or maybe even 5. They already have a system kind of similar to that for upgrading
How about
your
46?
gems.
I believe someone said
46,
46
yeah,
earlier.
sure. Yeah, just do it that way. Yeah. No, I think
You can get
people
1-5 or 46. That's a nice math system.
people need to break it up.
It's a very RNG kind of Diablo thing.
Yeah, exactly. And as far as the monsters that are in it, that kind of thing, sure, standardize those a little bit more. Obviously, you're playing Diablo because it's a loot pinata, it's random, but you could certainly level that out more, and they've tried to do that in the past, and I'm sure that they'll continue to.
So okay, you've been told, you've heard the counter arguments here, Moikai, and of course it's not a Diablo game if you can't endlessly repeat the same content for slightly different results.
Yeah.
As in addition to RNG screwing you. So why are they wrong? And do you see way, not to get into the whole detailed theory crafting of how you would subtly modify the system so it would still
Yeah.
get everybody in the same rift on multiplayer games, but
I
still
mean,
feel
I think
it could be fixed.
I
to be
think you
better.
guys have good points, and I've thought about this stuff too, and it feels like an extra layer that doesn't need to be there, and honestly, like, when they said the whole, like make it fluid, and have people play with each other and blah blah blah, when you join a game and some people, when they go into the game, they have expectations of like, okay, this is what I want to do, and you know, this is the kind of level that I need to do. And I feel like when you have trials like that, it pushes, I mean, it can have positive and negative results. And I guess I'm just sitting on the other side of the fence right now with that in terms of, what if you join a public game and, you want to be doing like a 35 and you, in your group, you end up with like a 12, or, something like that. I don't know. I can see it helping group dynamics, and keeping the, group together like that, but at the same time, I feel like it could also drive people away from each other, if that
I
makes
mean,
sense.
like if they put a system in where you could just get whatever rift key you wanted solo, but you just had to do waves in parties, suddenly no one ever does parties again, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so, I
I
mean,
think maybe kind of the problem with for Blizzard is like these logistical issues everyone's been discussing here, you know? Like players like I don't want to do it, it's a waste of time, and then it's like, well, what about multiplayer and what about extra rewards for legendary gems, etc. And they don't want to go into a 20-minute discussion of why all these little minor details don't work in the game stuff,
yeah,
and then fans are disappointed because their 30-second answer sucks.
Yeah.
yeah.
So would you say that the major complaint you have is just boredom factor and time lost? Would that be accurate?
Uh, no, I mean, I don't get bored with them, but it's just like, okay, like right now,
I get bored with them. I don't even dislike them when I get bored with
I
them.
mean, my brains literally bleed out of my ears. Yes, that's true. But it's something I do because I have to. But, like for example, I usually run Greater Rift 50 pluses in a group, you know, and sometimes I'll want to solo, and clearly, I'm not soloing 50 pluses, and it sucks to have to go back and farm 40s when I know that I can do them. You see what I'm saying? And I think the drop down menu would help that because it streamlines that a little more. Because you have solos, which, in general do clear lower greater rifts than group play. And with, it doesn't even have to be a drop down menu. I don't care what it is. The problem is when you have greater rift keys already made, like let's say I have a level 50 greater rift key and I actually want to solo a 40 on my demon hunter. I can't just pop the 50 in and open a 40 with it. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
And
I mean, I would say that's probably a different issue. So, the funny thing is, I actually think that part of what's upsetting you about them is that it's Blizzard dissing you. They're like,
no, 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 no,
no,
no,
you don't get this high level key, which honestly it would be valid if that's the case.
no, no, no,
I
no,
don't have
no.
a problem with that.
It's how do you say I feel like it doubles the time that I spend in trials because I have a set of keys that I have farmed for group and then a set of keys that I have farmed for solo play.
That's
And
very fair.
it's like, well, that sucks because you know it's two sets of keys that you can honestly not have. And then on top of that, like right now, like I usually run, 50s with my group, but we're running like speed 35s right now. And so now the problem is we all have 50 keys, level 50, 54, whatever keys. Now we're refarming 35s.
Yeah. Well, I
And
mean, you could step it back for sure. I mean, I think most people's complaint isn't that they can't get access to lower level keys if they have run higher levels. It's usually that, when they're running
exactly,
higher levels, they end up with lower level keys.
you know,
I wouldn't have a problem with that personally. Um, I mean, I would ask, would you be happy if they simply reduced the frequency at which you had to run the trials? So, say you still had to run the trials, you might still, if you got bad RNG, end up with a slightly lower key level than you would be happy with, but you only had to do it, say, once every 5 greater rifts instead of once every rift.
yeah,
Have
I
every
I think
46 greater
I
rifts.
think it's just redundant. It goes into the whole like, for example, Ubers. I can't do Ubers anymore because it.
Well, Ubers are fine. It's the damn keys in the first place that drive me
Okay,
crazy.
finding the keys
I
first of
can't get a
all,
key, people.
it sucks because it's 50%, right?
If I'm
Whatever.
with the Dogger Oasis, could be bigger.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, it needs to be way bigger. Yeah,
You
no,
know,
well, I mean, if you're fine with 5, you're fine with 5? You're fine with 5, right?
oh, like with trials?
Yeah, sure. 5 per.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Print
mean,
it, ship it, mail it to Blizzard. We're good to go.
Done. Like a
but like with
boss.
it goes into like the whole thing with Ubers, like having to reset the game every time you do a whole round. Like that's just so inefficient.
Yeah.
Yeah, once you finish all four, they just erase the portals. What are you going to go back in? I mean,
It's a problem
oh look,
when
it's the not sand spinner's corpse. Let's go stare at him for a while.
yeah, but see that's the funny thing is I did like 10 Ubers the other night with my group, and we couldn't do it after 10 because like there's a problem when it takes you longer to port back to town and run back to the new portal than it takes you to actually kill the Ubers. You
Yeah.
know? And then on top of that, you have to all four of you exit game and then all four of you re-enter game, and it's just like I mean, you know, why do we have to leave the game?
Well, that's another
Why don't
big
the
thing
portals
that
just close and then we just
they need to
open?
change. I mean, for instance, like if you want to farm Act 1 bounties, there needs to be a reset button on that.
Exactly.
Like the
Hell
fact that
yeah.
there isn't. I
I like
think,
how you said if.
yeah, if you want to do that. Yeah, no, I think people are. It's funny because like everyone loves this game so much, and I feel like so many of the player complaints, and again, most of them are valid. Is why am I doing? I'm running this game 80,000 times, basically the same thing over and over. Why am I being forced to do these little inane things? I mean, it's like.
Well, that is Diablo tradition, of
Yeah, I
course.
mean, you
We're doing Pendleskin for 8 hours straight in a new game every
I
time.
mean, it's like you're a battered housewife, and you just have to do the dishes for the thousandth time, and that's just the last time. That is the last straw. I mean, if everything were fine, if you didn't have to do it quite so often, it would be fine. But having to do it all the time is probably the major issue.